Hello folks, so we continue with the series, and today I will speak about the 3-9 angle, which seems to be in demand. So, Ketu in the 9th house and Rahu in the 3rd house. Let's get started. This is considered a favorable placement for the nodes. Both Ketu in the 9th house and Rahu is especially good in the 3rd house. Being that Ketu is in the Dharma Trikona, here Ketu will be concerned with your personal evolution and redefining your character in some way. Right? Because it's activating that 159 angle. And you will face this inevitably in the Ketu Dasha. Ketu does well though in the 9th house because of its natural affinity with Sagittarius. And Rahu does well in the 3rd house because of its natural affinity with Gemini. Here it can give you the best of both worlds. Ketu, a rich inner life, and Rahu, material success. And of course, 9th house is the highest of the Trikona house, right? It's considered to be the most auspicious house. Now here I've seen that spiritual growth, people who have the Ketu in the 9th, spiritual growth often involves freedom from restriction and the ability to pursue your own path in some way. And often this is a solitary path. And in this regard, you have likely spent tremendous time on self-development in previous incarnations. So this has probably made you acquire a lot of wisdom and a lot of knowledge. This Ketu placement can give you the ability to explore new horizons. The need to travel and just to escape is strong with this Ketu placement, similar to that 12th house Ketu, right? Which also has the escapist tendencies. Though here you can be very restless. You can endlessly be searching and not know what you're looking for or what you're trying to get away from. And for this reason, relationships can be problematic because of the searching and the importance that you give to personal freedom. Even if you're married or you're in a close, intimate relationship, at times you can fail to feel the bond or the connection with your partner with this Ketu placement. You cannot at times understand the purpose of a committed relationship. In fact, close, intimate bonds are problematic for you. And in this way, you don't honor the institution of marriage. Right? Because marriage we see from that Dharma Trikona, 159, especially the 9th house. Consequently, Ketu in the 9th house can often lead to extramarital affairs. This is a classic placement of someone who doesn't want to get married unless it's for a specific reason. Like, for example, I'm only going to get married because I want to have a family, for instance. Because the need to feel free is much stronger than the need to feel bound to someone, answerable to someone, or committed to someone. There's also a feeling of unfinished business in close, intimate relationships with this placement. And this can sometimes create the need to be free from close bonds. Moving toward the Rahu place is important to create connections and to open up communication. Even if it is simply connecting for the sake of connecting. This may reduce some of that commitment phobia that comes with this placement. It's also important to move toward the Rahu place to learn how to communicate openly. Yeah. There can also be a lot of miscommunication and misunderstandings with others, especially with siblings. You may not get along with your siblings. There can also be communication problems if Rahu is in bad dignity. Relationship with a father can also be problematic with this Ketu placement. You can feel a lack of support from your father and his side of the family. Formal education, university education, can see some breaks also. In fact, with Ketu in the 9th, you actually don't place a high value on degrees, and you don't place a high value on that conventional, organized type of education. Anyway, much of the knowledge that you have acquired is on your own, or through a guru, or through a spiritual community, especially if it's dignified Ketu placement. You can be very good at, in fact, transforming information into knowledge and wisdom with this placement. And you can also have an affinity for dispersing such knowledge if Rahu is well placed. In fact, some people can call you like a walking encyclopedia. Yeah. Here the trick is to keep that abundance of knowledge, of course, but to try to change your perspective. So if Mercury is strong in the chart, this is very helpful to do this. Because there's a tendency to be like coated with that knowledge, right? Either like you're not freely giving it, or you don't have the ability to express it clearly. One of the two. Right? So you might be hoarding it, or you just simply don't know how to express it clearly. There's a regard for traditions and customs of the family, of your upbringing, the early age. But later in life, you might reject the conventional religion and become an atheist too at some point. That's also possible with this placement. Later in life, you can go to the other extreme and you can denounce everything in the material world with this Ketu placement. It's a different placement than Ketu in the 10th in the sense that even there, knowledge is self-acquired when you have Ketu in the 10th house. But it's more so for the sake of building a vocation, building a career, doing something pragmatic with it. But whereas Ketu in the 9th, the knowledge that is self-taught is simply for the sake of acquiring knowledge. Right? And it may even have like a philosophical bent to it. A spiritual aspect to it, religious foundation to it. Of course, we have to see the strength of Jupiter and the placement of Jupiter to determine how this will manifest. So, for example, a bad or an afflicted Jupiter could mean a complete rejection of religion and spirituality. Right? Well-placed Jupiter can also bring a good inheritance from the father's side of the family. Ketu in the 9th house means that you categorize people by social classes and want to be part of an elite community or a group. And that could be a spiritual group. It could be a religious community also. But you want to be part of that elite group. And you want to have access to that place. Especially if it's a well-known, popular group. This placement can also make you frugal with money. Though, when you have wronged someone, you can be very repentant about your actions. Yeah, regretful, apologetic. Ketu in the 9th is a position where you're always exploring a new path, a new idea, a new philosophy. It's very good for pilgrimages, obviously, of all kinds, and those types of journeys, which have like a spiritual bent to them, like a spiritual foundation, a religious foundation, where you're just traveling for the sake of it rather than for something specific. Right? A journey for the sake of a journey. As simple as that. There is no fixed destination sometimes. This is a placement where you can be that typical person who wants to you'll take a year off just to find yourself. With a Ketu in the 9th, you're always searching, always seeking, always on a quest, always on a journey. And it could be internal, it could be external. At times you don't know what you're seeking, but you're in it for the journey itself. So this placement can in this way make you very restless. It can leave you without any real goals in life, like you don't have any concrete goals, when in actuality you're seeking purpose, but you lack the structure and you lack the focus. So we need to see Mercury's position to see if you're practicing discernment here, right? Because that's going to help you move towards that Rahu place. And of course we have to see Jupiter's position to see whether the journeys that you're making are fruitful or for your good. This placement tends to give a good first half of life compared to the second half, especially if you've been too materialistic. Reason being that Ketu gets activated between 47 and 53. Yeah. If the Dharma Trikona is strong, then actually this placement will make you stronger as you grow, as you age, ultimately. Yeah, it's very important to see what's happening in the 159 in your chart. Rahu in the third house. This is, of course, considered a positive placement for Rahu. It's an excellent placement, actually, and I've seen it work very well. It can give you the ability to take risks. It can give an immense amount of courage. It can make you fearless. It can make you a go-getter. It will give you a lot of determination, willpower, strength. And as is often seen with natural malefics, it can destroy the life signification, but boost the non-life signification of the third house. So, life signification meaning what? Siblings, companions, neighbors. Okay. Uncommitted relationships. Short flings. That kind of thing. But your mental and physical energy is high. With Rahu in the third, passions are intense. You will have good leadership ability. The ability to speak, write, are also boosted with Rahu in the third. This is a placement that will make you very adventurous, especially if the 159 axis is strong. Yeah. The ability to take initiative is there with no fear of rejection, which is great. It can also make you a good mediator, and it can make you very good at resolving disputes as well. It will make you a smooth talker, and you'll have the ability to tell people what they want to hear to get your way. This is a placement for someone who is good at useless chit-chat also. Like texting and things. Depending on your perspective, you could also consider this charming, of course, right? In the world that we live in, it's perhaps a very useful skill to have. But again, you have to see what else is happening, because appearances tends to be the focus with Rahu in the third house. If Rahu is in Mercury or Venus's sign, then certainly this will be true. Here we have to see the condition of the 5th and the 9th house, as well as Lagna Lord, to see if the person is geared toward deception in their dealings of others. And because it can make you easily, it can make you easily somebody who deceives others to get your way. But again, you can't say that just with Rahu in the third, right? Here you can be very protective of your family and friends, and often you can go out of your way to help them. Even though this placement can give you spiritual and religious depth, there's a strong desire for material objects, cars, homes, properties, because Rahu's in the third. It's natural house of Mercury. So acquisition of things. There's also a tendency to brag about and show off your wealth with this, right? Because we're talking about the third house, which is also gossip, by the way. So just talking about things, about others. But you don't tend to spend what you don't have, and you tend to be good with money also with this position. The other thing I've seen with this Rahu in the third house placement is that it gives you very strong intuition and the ability to read others' minds very quickly. Of course, what you do with that information depends on what else is going on in the chart. You can also be very good at entrepreneurial activities, because this is the third house after all. It can make you a self-made person. The ability to be charming, especially on social media, is very strong with this placement. There is an ability to make others do what you want without them realizing it. And you can be quite popular amongst your peers. If working on a higher level, you can be involved with charity work, working for the public good. Right? This is an Upajjhaya house after all. It can make you a hard worker, not shy about making efforts, and determined to succeed. In fact, it can make you very determined to succeed, and you don't give up easily. You can also have powerful connections with this Rahu placement if it's a dignified Rahu in the third. Right? Because it's connecting with that Gama Trikon. Right? 3, 7, 11. There's a tendency, as I mentioned, to gossip about others, though, with Rahu in the third. Short distance travel can also increase in your life during Rahu periods. And it would be good to partake in short distance travel because it can bring you luck, it can bring you prosperity, more so than long distance travel. This placement of Rahu can make you a good writer, maybe even a travel writer, a revolutionary, and it can also make you very pioneering in your thinking. You can do well in the fields of literature, publishing, traveling, media, translation, mediation, as an athlete, as a spiritual leader, as a revolutionary. In fact, you can speak and write about subjects that are not well known and be a pioneer in some way through your writings or through your speech. So it's an excellent Rahu placement. So that's all for now, folks. Hope you enjoy that. If so, don't forget to subscribe, like, share, comment. The works. Cheers.